Hi, I'm Zephyr, and today I'm feeling grateful for plants I can ethically harvest. Specifically today, we're going to talk about cattail. I harvested the top of one so that I can show you what plant I'm talking about. It's that one that you see by the sides of roads, looks kind of like a corn dog. Now, cattail has lots of uses. The base of the plant can be eaten, the roots can be made into cordage, the tops, if you work them a little bit, create a really nice fluff that can be used as tinder for making fires. But today we're going to talk about the leaves, these guys right here. Now, I harvested a bunch of leaves from several different cattail plants late in the season, which is why a lot of them are kind of yellowing and brown, but they're all still perfectly strong enough for process. And we're going to talk about how you can use cattail for weaving today to make a cattail mat, which when done looks something like this. This one is old and dried, which is why it's got such a loose weave. We're gonna weave it really tight, and as these dry out, they shrink a little bit and you get a looser weave, but the whole thing is still pretty sturdy and held together. This is a skill that kind of scales to any size, so you can make enormous mats and you can make teeny tiny little coaster size pieces. I'm gonna start with 4 roughly even leaves. I trimmed off the very base where it's really wide and the very top where it gets really narrow. Of all of these, I'm gonna start with these 4. So I'm gonna take 2, run them parallel and flat like that, and then I'm gonna put 1 over and under, and 1 is gonna go under and over. Put them tight and centered, and here we have the beginning of our weave. I'm going to keep following that pattern, grabbing leaves and alternating. Under, over, under. As I go, I'm tightening up the weave every now and again, just adjusting all the pieces to be a little bit closer together. The tighter you weave, the less loose it'll be. As it dries out, it's always going to loosen up a little bit, but you can mitigate how much. Alright, so this is about the size of weave that I feel like making for my mat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the ends, and I'm going to trim them long. Now these ends are probably still a little bit too long, but I'd rather have them too long and trim them shorter than trim them too short and not have them long enough. To finish up, this is how it goes. You're going to start one end, and you're going to tuck your piece over, under, over, however many times. I like to make sure it's under at least 2 pieces, so I'm going to trim it after there, like that. Then I'm going to keep that going, only with the unders though. We're going to flip it over again to get the other side where it needs to be. Okay, so that is 1/2 of all the end tucking done. Now we're going to flip it around, but before we do, I'm just going to make sure all those ends are tightly in there, all the pieces are pulled nice and long, and now we flip. And there we have it, a little cattail mat. Could be a big coaster, could be a nice thing to put hot pans on. As I said, it will loosen up a bit. This one is fully dried out, though green, and it's quite loose, but the whole thing still holds together. If I shift it around, if I move it around, if I, throw it away, the whole thing is still holding together very well because the pattern is right. And the same thing is the case for this. This will loosen up over time as it dries out, but the pattern will stay the same and I will still have a mat. And if I wanted, I could tighten up this whole thing and make this a nice tight mat like this again, though I'm not going to. As you can imagine, this skill scales. You can make big mats, you can make sleeping mats out of these, you can make baskets, you can make all sorts of things, though for basketry, we might just have to save that for another video on another day. Thanks for watching.